Today we will consider funding to address the humanitarian crisis on the border. The spending bill will be $4 billion. And while there is a humanitarian crisis at the border, we also have in our country a debt crisis. We're adding debt at about $1 trillion every year. The overall debt is $22 trillion, and interest on the debt that we have to pay every year is exploding such that it's crowding out other spending. So while I do agree there is a humanitarian crisis at the border, we must not ignore the debt crisis that faces our country. We should not borrow the money, pull out the credit card yet again every time a crisis occurs. Congress has an obligation to find lower priorities to cut to pay for higher priorities. I thought that's what legislating was about. You're supposed to say, well, right now we've got a crisis at the border, so maybe we're not going to send welfare to foreign countries. Every American family has to make these decisions. Why doesn't Congress? What Congress does is simply add it to the bill your kids and your grandkids will be paying. I'm proposing to actually pay for this by taking the money from a part of the budget that it's being wasted and put it into the humanitarian crisis on the border. Should we provide care and shelter to immigrants at the border, or should we be paying for clown shows and a traveling circus? Should we provide food for the children that remain at the border, or should we pay to support the businesses of deported immigrants? Listen carefully. We send money, we catch people coming across the border illegally, we send them back to their country and say, oh, don't worry, we're going to send you money to help you start a business. They break our law, we give them money to start a business back in their home country. If you ask politicians here, the answer is, fund it all, just put it on the credit card, we'll just keep borrowing, your kids and grandkids will pay for it. I mentioned some of these examples that I would cut, but let's hear about some more. Where's your money going? Where's the money coming from that we could actually pay for this crisis at the border? My amendment rescinds the remainder of this year's funds for the Inter-America Foundation. You may not have heard of this. The last time this bill was authorized was 1985. For over 24 years, we haven't done anything. We haven't even looked at the program. We just keep feeding it money. So, well, what do they fund in the Inter-American Fund? Well, let's see. They spend money to support small businesses of deported immigrants. We one time asked them, do you at least exclude criminal deportees? And they had a blank look on their face and they said, they didn't have an answer. So people we deport because they've committed a crime in our country, they aren't even excluding them from receiving American welfare. This group spent $1.2 million helping people in Mexico, Guatemala, and El Salvador improve their spending strategies. Does that sound like a good use of money? If we need money at the border, let's quit sending it south of the border to improve the spending habits of those in Mexico, Guatemala, and El Salvador. These funds also subsidize guinea pig farmers in Peru, a llama fair in Bolivia, and advertisements to buy carbon credits in Mexico. If we've got a crisis at the border, both sides of the aisle have now finally woken up that there's a crisis. Let's spend it on a crisis and not be supporting a llama fair in Bolivia or a guinea pig farm in Peru. This same group, where I'd like to take the money to spend it on the border, the same group spent $500,000 to jumpstart the Haitian film industry. Does that sound like a national priority to anybody? If we want to treat people in a more humanitarian fashion on the border, and we need to spend some money down there, maybe we could not be supporting the Haitian film community. This group spent $300,000 to help Brazilians get off Brazilian welfare. That might be better spent talking to Americans about American welfare. But we had no business sending that money to Brazil. Is any of this a higher priority than what we're doing at the border? I would say not. Is it more important to pay for the cost of the situation on the border, or should we also be sending foreign welfare abroad? The U.S. spent $223 million to fund a highway in Afghanistan. We found out afterwards that the security that our government hired to protect the people while they were building the road at $1 million a year, that the security people were actually funneling the money to a terrorist group called the Haqqani Network, our sworn enemies. The Haqqani Network is known for killing our soldiers, but we were paying them to be security guards while we wasted millions of dollars building a highway in Afghanistan. I'd say spend that money at home. Now, the road we built for the Afghanis is in such disrepair after only a few years, they can't afford to maintain it. So we're asking you to cough up a little more money. They need $22 million to keep the highway in good repair. We spent $273 million on development grant program that didn't actually do anything. It taught foreign people how to fill out grants to get more money from us. So it's not enough that they're fleecing you and sending your money to all these boondoggle projects around the world. We have a program to teach foreigners how to get more welfare from us. This amendment takes $4 billion that they want to spend on the border and says, that's fine, let's do it, but let's take it from foreign aid. Let's take it from foreign welfare. Let's take it from llama fairs and guinea pig shows in Peru. It's utterly ridiculous. This program has not been looked at since 1985. If we eliminate the program, we can pay for the money they want to spend at the border. That's what it would mean to be responsible legislators, to make priorities, decide where to spend the money, and not just simply run up the tab and say, your kids and grandkids can pay for it. I recommend a yay vote on offsetting the spending for this supplemental spending bill, and I hope Americans will watch to see who votes to offset this by cutting wasteful foreign welfare. Thank you, Mr. President.